Welcome to Hashtag Sports.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. I sound like the guy opening up at a carnival for a circus or something like that, Paul. It's pretty crazy. Hashtag Sports coming at you. Hashtag Nation, how are you guys doing tonight? The draft is almost upon us. It's less than a week away, and we cannot be more excited for it. Thank you for joining us here at Hashtag Sports, where we're trending now and trending later. Going to be talking a little bit about the Buffalo Bills, the picks, and a little bit of things that are going on. Some players that are on the roster who can make an impact in 2020 if we actually have a season. And also, we're going to be taking your questions and anything you guys want to discuss tonight on the panel. We're actually going to mention, I think, toward the middle or toward the end, I haven't figured it out yet, we got some new things coming out for you guys. We actually had a Zoom meeting with some of Hashtag Nation, which was a great time. And it was a lot of fun to actually get to talk to you guys and everything else. So, you got all the usual suspect. Yes, Donnybrook, we're late. We got Denver, Evan, Tim, Chuck, Believers Talk in the house, Daniel, Dallas, and Geek Squad. You guys are the best. You're right on point.
There's Apex.
Yep, we are sorry we are late. And B Lightning is also here. We're sorry we were late. We had a little technical difficulties, but this is Hashtag. You guys expect that. So my esteemed colleague is here as well. And getting roasted by his son already. What is this?
Yeah. Hey, listen, quarantine time, baby. I don't shave. I'm still on maternity leave for like another week or two, so I'm not sure. I'm just not doing it.
But yeah, like I said, let's just jump into the draft and jump into. We're going to be taking your guys' questions, as you know, throughout the talk. We're going to be here for an hour, so strap in, sit tight, grab a drink, and do whatever you guys got to do. I think right out of the gate, Paul, Bean is not going to be able to help himself sitting there for 53 picks. And I don't think he can do it. I personally do not think he can do it. And I was just sitting there and going, okay, listen, the Bills don't pick until 54. Obviously, there are teams that have a lot of picks in that time, a lot of AFC teams that have picks in that time, but always taking care of your division is the number one priority for a team.
Yeah.
So I decided to go look at the picks that are going to be happening in front of the Bills that belong to the AFC East, and there are a total of 7. Mm-hmm. So 7 players out of the 53 are going to be going into the AFC East, impact players that could, that the Bills are going to have to contend with for 2 games a year for the foreseeable future and everything else. Miami has 4 of them. Jets have 2, and New England has 1. And then I started to do a little bit more digging and seeing that, let me see, 2, 6, there's 12 picks in the AFC East to the Buffalo Bills 1 before they choose in the 3rd round. So that's a lot of players in the 1st and 2nd rounds, and the 3rd, obviously, that have to go into your division. Now, if you're Brandon Bean, how are you going to try to rectify that? You have to you got to hit a home run with that 2nd round pick. It can't be just a guy, because all of us have been talking about all this time. It's a luxury. It's going to be great. It's going to be a complimentary running back, or it's going to be another cornerback, or it's going to be a safety, all this other stuff. What is the importance, just hearing what I just said, of that 54th pick now?
Well, I think it kind of, first off, what's up, everybody? I think it kind of plays off the fact that this is the crazy season for the NFL draft, right now, because teams are looking to move up or down. I know that I've heard rumors of a bunch of teams outside of the 20th pick are looking to move out of the 1st round. This is a weird season, right? Some teams might not really value these late round, 1st round picks, because a lot of organizations just see the first 15 or 18 players off the board as the only 1st round talent. And then after that, you get kind of like a 1B scenario where it's like, well, this guy, we could take him if he's available. You're kind of past your 1st round picks after normally about pick 18. So there's a lot of rumors going around right now that those picks in the later half of the 1st round could start flying out of the building, where, teams are looking to move up. Now, we've talked about scenarios where the Bills could trade up higher into the 2nd round, but there's going to be teams at the top of the 2nd round looking to jump into the 1st round instead. So the price of poker is going to be really, really high once you start talking about these late round picks. And I just don't see the Bills as having the war chest as being able to jump into the first. Although I know teams are talking about trying to get out of there. Maybe, I mean, Bean has worked his magic before. If he somehow manages to not squander next year's draft and sneak back into the 25th, 26th pick, that could make a big difference, because you look at New England, they're sitting at 23. Minnesota's at 22. The Eagles are at 21. Jacksonville's at 20. It is something that you kind of have to look at and say, okay, what do we want to chop the legs out of? Miami's sitting at 26. The Bills, do you think the Bills have the wherewithal and the gall to try and jump into the first round?
I think, number one, we're probably, someone made a comment, your mic's a little bit, Geek Squad, he said your mic's a little bit off. It's a little bit scratchy sometimes every time you turn your head. Might be the mug root beer, I don't know yet, but we'll get on that. Daniel Garis comes in the chat, he says, Bean knows when to hold them, knows when to fold them. Garis, too soon. Way too soon, buddy. That's crazy. I don't know if... Now, I was just talking about, obviously, the volume of picks that the Buffalo Bills would have in comparison to the AFC East. I don't know. If he wants that player to be a starter right now, you could, if you could name 3 starters. A lot of people will go with edge rusher. A lot of people will go with a number 2 corner in lieu of Josh Norman. A lot of guys may say a tackle to bump forward down to guard. There's a lot of varying opinions that go on with that. However, I think of it as, I think he would want volume. I think he thinks of it in his respect, like, we can't go 12 picks to 1 before we pick in our third round. We can't give 12 impact players before we pick it. Was it 88? I think it's 88. Yeah. We can't just have one player. We need to
86. Bills are at 86.
Oh, okay. So then I apologize. It's 11 picks then, because New England picks 87. I apologize for that. So it's 11 picks to 1 for the Buffalo Bills. I just think sacrificing next year's draft may be something that happens because of the players that you have to re-sign. Now, you have to remember, Allen and Edmonds in the same year. You're going to have to think about re-signing both of them if they're in your future plans for the Buffalo Bills. So what I think you could do is you could sacrifice a pick, and that may have been the Diggs pick this year. You may have to sacrifice a pick next year, and being as bold as he is, if you give up a first round next year and you slide into the first in the back end of the first round this year, and then maybe pick up a third as well, that kind of levels it off, because then you get a first round pick, you still have your second, and you get a third, and you're starting to level the playing field of the amount of picks that you have in comparison to the rest of the teams in the AFC East. I know a lot of people are going to be checked out on the first day because the Bills don't have a pick, but 5 picks going into the AFC East are going to impact what the Bills do on day 2.
Well, let me ask you this. So I know you just said a first next year. Do you think teams around the NFL are going to start devaluing a Bills future draft pick, right? Because look at it this way, right? Let's say New England says, okay, well, we'll trade you a pick. We'll trade you a third next year. Aren't you kind of devaluing that, knowing that New England is perennially at the back end of the third round? Do you think teams are going to start devaluing future Bills first round or future Bills draft picks? Because that was something before, where if the Bills called and they were offering you a pick next year, you were really going to consider taking that, right? Yeah. Because that pick was going to be high in that round. History had just told us, but the last 3 years haven't really proven that to be consistent, where the Bills are normally picking at the top of the draft. That hasn't been the case. They've had to move, they moved around in recent history, and you look at the structure of the team, it's just simply better than it's been in the past. So do you think if the Bills are calling and saying, okay, well, listen, we'll offer you, our second this year and our second next year, as a team looking at that and saying, okay, well, it's 54 this year and probably again 54 the following year, I'm not really interested in that, right? Mm-hmm. Do you think teams are really going to start, devaluing when the Bills call offering future first or offering future picks?
I don't know. A lot of teams have dealt with the Patriots, and for like the longest time, I remember we made a joke about it on an episode before. The Buffalo Bills or the New England Patriots and the Seattle Seahawks, like, last year was the first year in like 6 years that both of them had a first round pick in the same draft. Mm-hmm. Because and you look how good Seattle has been for a number of years. You look how good New England has been for a number of years. Guys want first round picks. I don't think they care, because what that does, whether or not the Buffalo Bills make it to the playoffs, whether they make it to the divisional round, if they have a pick that's in the 20s, a team that's looking to move up in the following year, let's say 2021, what they're going to do is that, hey, we could bundle these. I mean, those are just as important. If they, hey, we got a number 10 pick and a 21st pick, we can probably slide up to 7 or 6 in that respect if they needed to. So having those picks, I think, is big. But I definitely think that teams take that into consideration where they're saying, like, hey, you know, if they looked at Cincinnati last year and they're like, hey, they're thinking of giving us a second round pick. Well, that's great. It's almost like a first round pick. So that's something that, which I was shocked at. This is why this is the genius of Bean, how he was able to trade Tyrod Taylor for Cleveland's third round pick, which was essentially the first pick in the third round. And it was like, okay, hey, this is what we got. This is the ammunition we need to go up and get Allen. So I don't know if he's able to contain himself and help himself and do all this other stuff. I think it's going to be crazy at the draft and what happens with Brandon Bean. I just don't think he'll be able to sit there and be like, listen, before we pick our third round pick, there's going to be 11 players coming to the AFC East, which is going to be a very competitive division, despite what a lot of people say. Everyone thinks the Bills are going to run away with it. I think he's going to say, listen, depending on the guys that go, I mean, you assume a quarterback's going to go to Miami. You assume another impact player, maybe a lineman, goes there. He's going to sit there and go, listen, all right, what could we draft now to combat what's been coming into the division now so we could take care of our house and then go on and move on to, greener pastures as a perennial playoff team.
So I see Evan Anderson said, could you see Bean trading later picks to a team for a veteran or proven depth options during the draft? That's actually a really valid idea.
Beautiful.
Right? So this is definitely a draft where you could start seeing late picks traded for veterans a little bit more often. It does happen. You see it, a couple times a year. I remember the Bills did it with, Bryce Brown. That's the most recent name.
Yes.
I know there are other ones, but Bryce Brown's an example, right?
Yes.
Where on draft day, you trade a pick for a veteran player. With such a short offseason, veteran players are going to come in a little bit more of a premium. So, yeah, I absolutely can see late picks being shipped off a bit more often. I don't know if the Bills fall into that because they don't really have a ton of spots on this roster as it is. So I don't really know if they're a player for that, but they definitely could be. It fits the mold of what their culture is, where they might not take that 6th or 7th round pick and instead trade it for a veteran player. They got the cap space to do it. That's normally one of the restrictions, is a little bit of cap space. They've got some space to play with. It's definitely something that could happen. So it's that may be something you see a little bit more often this year as teams are worried about rookies coming in on this shortened offseason. That's a definitive possibility. You could see more veterans traded with those late round picks.
Well, you look at the Rams. The Rams have 2 second round picks, and the Rams are $5 million over the cap. Like right now, they couldn't draft. They couldn't sign their draft pool right now. Mm-hmm. They're $5 million over. Their draft pool currently right now is going to cost them the first year $5 million. So they have to try to get rid of $10 million in some capacity. The Brandon Cooks trade did not help them. It cost them more money.
No, that's
so that could be a team that you perennially could. I don't know the relationship that Bean would have with Les Snead, who is the GM there. They probably have crossed paths. I don't know. I'm not really sure. However, that could be a talking point where he's like, listen, you need volume, but you need cheaper volume. I have a couple of 6th round picks. I could maybe throw in a 5th next year. To try to move you. I mean, if you want to throw us a 2nd round pick, which is highly valuable, I understand that, but they're going to have to try to find a way to trim players, and they don't have a lot of players. I mean, the Buffalo Bills. You look at it this way, and I'm gonna switch. I want to talk about what Steven said in the chat. He said he loves Milano, but that's a great point. The great point being that all things Buffalo Bills what the Dash NFL said. He said I'm gonna hate to say this, but as much as I love Milano, he's huge trade bait. The thing about Milano that teams are going to be leery of are things about that turn teams off about Alvin Kamara right now, because he only has a year left. He only has 1 year left. You're not guaranteeing anything but 2020 with the guy right now, because you don't know if you can re-sign him. You don't know if he's going to go to this team. You don't know how he's going to adjust to the culture of coming into a new team. He's only known New Orleans, and before that he played for Tennessee. So who knows how that in college, Tennessee. I'm not losing my mind. He didn't play for the Titans. So what I'm trying to say is that you look at that situation. The Diggs trade was so favorable to the Bills because he still had 4 years left on it. That's why it was so great. The Kamara or a Matt Milano, it's tough to trade those guys not knowing what the next year holds for them. So while Milano would be great trade bait, he's cheap this year. He's a proven commodity in the NFL. He's a great coverage linebacker. He does a lot of the things well. However, I don't know how teams would be willing to jump on that trade if they only have him for 2020, which is still up in the air anyway.
Right. And really the question becomes, would you be comfortable franchise tagging him? Right. I mean, that's what you'd have to look at. You're making a trade for a player with 1 year left on their deal. The reality is that you're looking to try and get more than 1 year out of it, unless it's, a player like Clowney is, the perennial player that pops up recently in recent history. We're like, well, there's a guy, you're only going to get him for 1 year, but yay, let's get it done. If you're looking at linebacker, franchise tag is about $16 million for Matt Milano, which I just want to point out is 8 times his current salary. Right. So
he's making $2 million this year.
He's only making $2 million this year, but it's favorable this year, right? Because he's only making $2 million, but your commitment to him is not going to be there. He's not a $16 million a year player. The Bills are not going to make that commitment to him. Not when you have Tremaine that you're eventually going to have to take care of. You got Tre'Davious White to take care of. Maybe not this offseason, but the offseason after that. You still have to determine what you're going to do with Deion Dawkins. Interestingly enough, Milano and Dawkins are the same agent. So it's going to be fascinating how that works, right? Because
he gets a new house.
Perspective,
he'll get a new house.
Well, the perspective from the agent is, well, I want both my guys to resign, or I want both of my guys to test free agency, or do you draw the line in the sand of, well, okay, Dawkins, I couldn't get a deal done for you because I got it done for Milano. Sorry, but you'll be fine on the free agent market. Like, that's a tough sell, right? That's got to be a tough sell if you're the agent.
And the thing about Milano is, I think, just from just from my own opinion, trade for Thielen. DLC comes in, trade for Thielen. I think that Milano has the versatility that if a team wants to go get him, they won't limit him to an outside linebacker role. I think they would probably he has the versatility to move inside and play that if he wants. So if he has to get tagged as a linebacker, you're talking about, like you just said, you're paying Edmonds to be your middle linebacker eventually. You can't. I mean, that's something that a team could do, and the Bills will obviously get a compensatory pick for that. So depending on the size of the contract that he gets, but it seems interesting to me that everyone's in on White, everyone's in on Dawkins, and they think that Milano might be the odd man out. And I think that this draft, Bean's always been ahead of positional need. If he feels that things aren't going well, or he wants to cover his bases and get insurance, if you see a linebacker taken with the second round pick or the third round pick, I don't foresee that. But I'm saying if you see it, or you see Duggar or Chin, and they're playing on the field, because we all know that when Milano missed 3 games in 2018, who came down in the box and was playing that other linebacker role a little bit? It was Poyer. Poyer was playing, so that may have gotten the wheels turning in McDermott and Frazier's head, saying, listen, if we can get a player like a Poyer, if we happen to lose out on Milano, i.e. a Chin or Duggar, you could still put him in that role, and while it wouldn't be, you still have A.J. Klein on the books for 2020 and 2021, you'd still have time to get your player if you needed to. I mean, personally, would I love Milano on this team for life? Yes, but I understand that this is a business. The Buffalo Bills are going to conduct business in the way that they best see fit. You're not going to overextend for a Milano when you have Allen and Edmonds coming up on contracts, and you don't want to lose those guys. So it is a very interesting situation, and it's one that I can't wait to see how it plays out for the Buffalo Bills. So, because if you see Chin or Duggar fall to 54 and they jump on it, Milano might be playing his last season for the Buffalo Bills in 2020 if he can't negotiate a deal that's around 10 or 11 million.
Well, I see Chuck Christopher mentions being already drafted Milano's replacement in Voshon Joseph.
Oh, I love
them's fighting words around here. I got to be honest with you. Don't get me wrong. I like Voshon as a player. He's lightning quick, but I mean, there's definitely some issues with him. I love him on the blitz, right? If you want to try and convert him down, add some
Love
weight,
O'Shea
make him a
Joseph.
little DE, you look at a little defensive end play, then I'd be okay with it. But just as a straight will linebacker, he scares me a little bit. Talent levels off the charts. It's a lot of like recognition stuff. His tape either looks amazing or dreadful. It is like one or the other. There's no middle ground with him. But I love Voshon Joseph. I just don't love him as much as Matt Milano. I mean, that's
Yeah, I mean,
reasonable.
because it's going over. I mean, the Bills already did that this year with the 2020 NFL Draft. They decided to trade their first round pick. Everyone was talking about getting one of these flashy wide receivers: Ruggs, Lamb, Chenault, or Jefferson. All these other guys that they were talking about getting. Well, what they decided to do, they decided to go with a proven commodity, which I think they were ahead of the curve on a lot of these things. If the 2020 season ends up being, a lot of these rookies can't come into camp right away. A lot of these rookies can't start to learn the offense like they would do in a normal off season. But the Bills seem to be ahead of it in that respect, and it shows a proven track record of the Buffalo Bills of saying, listen, we're going to go and we're going to get this guy. We're not going to wait for a rookie to develop. Now you flip it up ahead. Milano's the proven commodity. Voshon is not. So how are they going to handle that situation? I equated, and I've said this to you a bunch of times, Paul. I equated Voshon Joseph as an extra draft pick for the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah.
Because he didn't play at all in 2019. He was in the building and learning the system, which is he's got a leg up on anybody that comes in. But the depth that they're able to have is great at that position, and he seems like a forgotten man in this defense where I think he could make a very big impact if, like you said, he is so hot and cold, though. You got to have consistency to play in this defense, and he just hasn't shown it yet.
Yeah. I saw Daniel Gary's mention that SpotTrack has Milano's market value at 13 mil per. SpotTrack they're tough with their market values. Some of them are good, but some of them are just all over the place. Some of them are solid. Like Jordan Phillips, they had Jordan Phillips at like 6 mil a year. Like there's some that just aren't very good. If they have Milano at 13 mil, that's about 3 million more than what he's probably going to get paid. I wouldn't be surprised to see him sign an even 4 for 10 or 5 for 50 with a bunch of back end incentives. What are you laughing
Look
about?
at the chat. What I just typed in.
What? I go 11 max, 5 for 50, 28 guaranteed. All right, well, I guess we're on the same page.
I guess we're on the same page with him.
All right, then. That's fine. Yeah, it's especially with a player like Milano, he had a little bit of injury history, but
yeah,
I'm still, he's a $10 million a year player. You got him for a song right now, but that's the thing is once you start re-signing these players, either you have to become super reliant on the draft or you just have to start drafting their replacements.
Yeah.
We don't know yet what this is. This would be the first real draft where we get to see, are the Bills going to start drafting replacement level players, right? Is that the plan? We don't know. We really don't know. And it'll be very fascinating to see how this all plays out because I don't know. I would love to tell you they're going to re-sign, Dawkins and Milano and everything's going to be comfy, cozy as we move along. You look at the defense and they've been able to keep the defense all together, but I can't make that promise.
Yeah. And, we got a lot of Jack Patrick. What about Phil McCracken? Excellent bowler. That guy's amazing. We got a lot of calls for Chase Claypool in the chat. Everyone keeps talking about can he go to tight end? Paul and I, there's a couple of things that you and I take as universal truths when we talk about the draft. Unless it's Quentin Nelson, you don't draft a guard in the first round. Okay, I think you'll agree with me on a majority of things because we've talked about. That's one. Number two, you don't draft a guy that you're going to have to shift positions in the first 3 rounds. I mean, I just don't think that's something that leads to success in the NFL. Has it happened? I'm sure it has happened. However, in the first 3 rounds, you're thinking those first 3 rounds that you have, those are going to be impact players for you immediately when they walk in the door, in my opinion. So a guy that you're saying, hey, we should take this guy and move him here, I just don't feel comfortable. I'm not an NFL scout. I was never in the NFL. However, the trends that I've seen, those are the guys, the 4th, 5th, 6th round flyers that you take on a guy that say, hey, listen, we really like about this thing about this guy. He's got some really intriguing traits. Let's draft him, see if he works out. If it doesn't, it's a 6th round pick. It's a 5th round pick. We don't care, because everyone knows all the compensatory picks happen at the end of the 3rd round, which pushes guys down even further. So those first 3 rounds of the compensatory picks are guys that are going to make a impact on your team. I don't, as far as Claypool, I think a team would draft him to play wide out, like right now in the 3rd round. Saying that the Bills would draft him and move him to tight end, Jack Patrick, that is true. I did stay at Holiday Inn Express. They would draft him and move him to tight end. I don't know if that's in their plans. Given what I gave you earlier, was that before that 3rd round pick, the AFC East is going to have 11 picks on you. Now, you want to take a developmental guy? Are you that confident in your team that you're that deep that you could do that? I don't. I'll kick it to you and I'll kick it to the chat. I don't know about that.
Okay, so if let me put it this way, you could say that teams draft the best player and they get to do whatever they want with them, but the truth is, if an agent got wind that a team was going to draft Claypool to move him to tight end, the agent would be on the phone with that team saying, oh, you could do that if you want, but don't expect my player to show. He won't show. Like, you can draft him, but he's not going to show. You're going to have to trade him. Here's the reason why, and I know that sounds a little curt, but the truth of the matter is, we'll just use it as an example what the franchise tag is between a wide receiver and a tight end. It's a $7 million difference between a franchise tag and a wide receiver and a tight end. So why, in God's name, would you volunteer an up-and-coming player who's is a hot name? Why would you think that changing positions was going to make sense for him?
No.
The same reason why people were saying, well, you could trade Lamar Jackson and turn him into a corner or a running back. No. The quarterbacks make $26 million on the franchise tag. Like, that's the gold standard.
Wow.
He's gonna live, die, and burn by that quarterback position. No team is gonna draft Claypool and move it into tight end, because the agent, rightfully so, will say he's not a 7th round player. If he's a 7th round player, sure, we can play this game, but he's not a 7th round player. So if you draft him to be a tight end, don't expect him to be there. I'm not saying his agent has said that, but let's be real about this.
It's a business. We have to remember, we have to harken back to the fact that this is a business. Like, you're not gonna. You remember that one year, I think it was Jimmy Graham was going to get the franchise tag, and he wanted to get tagged as a receiver. Just exactly the situation you're talking about. He's like, well, listen, I played 87% of my snaps at the wide receiver position. I wasn't on the line. I was out there. So I think that, coupled with the fact of they already drafted 2 tight ends last year, albeit Sweeney being a 7th round pick. You have Kroom coming back. They love Lee Smith for some reason. And you have Knox, who is emerging, and Croft. So do you want to make him an H-back? He has the title of a wide receiver, but you want to make him an H-back. I understand the allure of having a 2 tight end set with because that's what the New England Patriots ran in the EP system, and it worked out great. The problem was they had Hernandez and Gronk. Gronk will go down as one of the greatest tight ends of all time. And Aaron Hernandez was a freak athlete at the tight end position. So trying to replicate that, I think, would be very difficult. And on the offensive side of the ball, just as intriguing as Voshon Joseph is going to be, I wonder what Kroom's role is going to be on this, if he's still even on the team, because the Bills have him for a song. He didn't acquire a year of, I was about to say a year of eligibility last year, but he didn't accrue a season last year because he was on IR. So the Bills have him if they want him for the foreseeable future.
Right.
So I think with all of those factors combined, you have tight ends that you're not looking to add. You're looking to probably get rid of a couple in the future. So,
well, and I see Lee Smith is being beckoned in the chat. DLC mentions Lee Smith. Remember Old Fashioned Trousers mentions Lee Smith. Like, why is he still on the team? I'll be a happy man when and Lee Smith has his place on the team, right?
He does.
But Lee Smith has his place on the team if you're looking for run blocking. And with Beasley, Brown, and now Diggs, you have to just kind of assume that the Bills are going to be shifting a little bit away from emphasizing the run game. And Claypool brings up, an interesting dynamic that the Bills kind of struggled with a little bit was a red zone threat. That's really where he makes his money. But we've heard this song and dance before.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Like Claypool, I'm just kind of on.
Yeah.
I'm just kind of on him.
Well,
It's
and here's the thing that gets me, Paul. You're not executing in the red zone. Okay?
Mhm.
The fans, us included, want a big red zone target. Okay?
Yeah.
They got Duke Williams, who I think could be that go up and get it guy. He has proven he can do that. I have a lot of confidence in Duke Williams. After meeting the guy at Batavia Downs, he's a lot bigger than people think. I mean, I'm 6'5". The guy was looking me right in my face. And I'm like, okay, he's a big dude. His shoulders are about the size of Montana. He's a really big guy. So when you say that, when I say that, then we look at the film. Okay. Now, I don't think it was a lack of having a big guy down there, which is why they didn't have Duke Williams in there for a few games. I think it was the lack of the scheme and play calling to get guys open down near the red zone. That's for me. I think as much as we harped on Dable last year, and we did, I saw holes in Allen's game where guys were open down near the red zone that he could have hit, and all this red zone talk about getting a jump ball guy, because that's the easiest thing to default to. Let's get a big guy and go up and get it. I understand that. Megatrons aren't every year. Julio Jones aren't every year. These guys that go up and get it that are huge guys, or Gronk, they don't come out every year. So that defaults then back on the offensive coordinator to get a play, to get somebody open. The easiest solution is to score past 20 yards so you don't have to have a big red zone target. But I think that Kroom could be that guy. I think that Duke Williams could be that guy. I even think Knox could be that guy. I mean, these are three guys who I think could get the ball in the red zone if you needed it. Mm-hmm. However, the scheme wasn't set up as such for that to happen. And I don't think Claypool is the Band-Aid you need to put over that.
Right.
I just don't think it. Yeah, it says Donnybrook says Kroom's only 6'3", but his arms are like, he's got like an 8-foot wingspan.
I think I'm going to sound a little like I'm talking sideways on this, but your biggest red zone liability last year was Josh Allen, right? Your biggest red zone threat was also Josh Allen, right? Like
yes.
That team is going to score in the red zone as he wills them to score. Like that's all there is to it. And unfortunately in the red zone, things move quick. There's not a lot of space to work, and that takes time.
The progressions,
that takes time. So I think that's where, like, to me, I know everybody says they want to see Josh Allen improve on the deep pass. I want to see Josh Allen improve 20 yards to the goal line. That's where I want to see him improve.
Yeah.
Because I think there was some really, really big inconsistencies when you go back and watch last season. And if there's an area I need him to get better in, that's it, right? We kicked field goals in situations where we didn't need to kick field goals. We were within striking distance and we just couldn't get it done. Now, we could say that's Dable. Believe me, I will carry that torch for you all day long. But your biggest red zone threat is Josh Allen. But the biggest weakness was also Josh Allen at times. So Claypool is one piece of the puzzle that could make your red zone more effective. But Josh Allen, honing in that piece of his game, I think makes a player like Knox more dangerous, makes a player like Beasley more dangerous, makes John Brown more dangerous, makes Diggs more dangerous. Like him being on it, that's the missing piece, is just that consistency from him.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I equate it to something like this. When Allen was in there, from the 20 to the 20, it's like almost like he had this huge, big target. So it's kind of hard to get him. You don't know what he's going to do. There's a bunch of plays in the playbook that you have. The closer and closer and closer they would get to the red zone, it would be like this. And to your point, he is the biggest threat. So all of the emphasis was on him. They were going to try to guard against. They were going to play man, punch somebody in the face because they know the deep routes aren't happening, and they're going to try to provide a run blitz or a spy to Allen. Because I agree 100% with you. He is your biggest red zone threat. And when you get closer and closer to that end zone, the reads and the windows get so tight, so much tighter and so much faster. Right. And to your point, I like I said, I can't agree with you any more than that. But it has to start with 17. I think that's the one thing that's why everyone, above everything else, above drafting 54, about all these picks, trading for Diggs, all this other stuff, the emphasis comes back to Will 17 make the progressions that we feel and we hope that he makes in 2020? And if he doesn't, who does that really fall on? Who is that really going to fall on? Are people going to take point at Dable? Yeah, offensive coordinator is always pointed at. Is it going to fall on Allen? Well, he missed this throw, this read. I understand that. But we, as a fan base, me in particular, you in particular, hashtag nation, we really have to kind of pump the brakes a little bit because everyone's riding high on what the Bills did this offseason. Bean did a wonderful job acquiring talent, depth. You don't know where they're going to go at 54, which is why it's so fun to talk about. So in that respect, I want to see the next step from 17. I want to see that. And I think he does too. Like, he is so committed to trying to get better every day and do everything that he can for this team to be successful. And I don't think, as Bills fans, we've had that at the quarterback position for a while.
Sure. Well, I'm seeing a lot of mention in the chat about John Brown going back to the game in Houston. I mean, there's a bunch about that Houston game I would like to go back and redo, right? But let's not forget, John Brown was nowhere even sniffing a number 1 wide receiver tag prior to this season in Buffalo.
No,
right?
No.
Like he was a guy that was acquired at the same time as, I think they really saw John Brown as, we need to get a guy, right? We need to get somebody in here that has been around the league at least a little bit, right? He had been in a couple different places. I think they valued that, but they signed Brown and Beasley at the same time. I don't think their master plan was not to get both, right? That wasn't the plan. That just kind of happened. Right. It just ended up with both of them, which turned out great for Buffalo. But we could be you could drop some hate on John Brown for some of the things he did when the game was on the line, and I understand that. But remember, those moments were big for him too.
Yeah.
So that's something that I would like to see John Brown, come through a little bit more next season. Is hopefully having Diggs here will allow him to capitalize on some of those opportunities a little bit more, because it felt like at times the moment got a little big for him, where he was just he wasn't playing football anymore. Maybe I'm alone in feeling that way, but I'm looking forward to John Brown this season, because it just felt like some moments were a little big for him last year.
Yeah, and it's funny too, because when you look at him in Baltimore, it's almost like a forgotten season. You look at him in Arizona, and he wasn't asked to be the guy. So we have always had some trepidation as far as wide receivers that are number 2s on certain teams, and you sign them to be a number 1. Sometimes they don't fit the bill. I mean, some guys don't do that well. The most recent memory I could think of Terrence Williams. When Dez Bryant left, he couldn't do it. He couldn't carry the torch, and that's no knock on him. Some guys are just better 2s. I'll go back to Dallas again. You want to talk about back when Michael Irvin and Alvin Harper were there. Alvin Harper left Dallas to get a big contract just to be a number 1. He couldn't do it. Nope. He was better as a 2. Yep. That's just when you're facing number 2 cornerbacks. That's just how it goes. You could shine a little bit better. John Taylor was another guy who flourished because of Jerry Rice. And I know I'm talking about 2 different eras, and I do apologize for that. But I'm trying to, the examples off the top of my head of guys who were 2s who made it to 1s, I think that John Brown did make that transition. Now you have a guy who has experience, who's been in these situations, who did a bunch of different things for you last year, and you bring in Diggs. Now, what is that going to do? You matured John Brown from a 2-ish guy to a 1 guy. I think he made that maturity. Now you bring in a 1. Not many teams are going to have 2 corners. Look at what Miami did. They went out and now they have Xavier Howard and Byron Jones. They have 2 number 1 corners. Look at what the Jets did. They went out and they got another corner. The New England Patriots are going to restock on corners as well. They gave McCourty a team-friendly deal to play on top a number 2 corner opposite of Gilmore. So all of that stuff intertwined. That's why I say the onus is on Allen now, because you have talent around you now. They just upgraded your talent. What are you going to do in 2020?
I saw a couple of people mention Peerless Price as another example of, that's a good one. That is a good one.
When he tried to go down to Atlanta after Buffalo and didn't work.
And then came back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for a cup of coffee.
Yeah, that's it. this is going to be a fascinating draft. Now, Mar, do we want to talk about a little bit about the draft, because it's different this season for the NFL being all virtual. We don't know what that's going to look like, but I know we have talked about how we're going to cover the draft. So do you want to give any details on that? I think now is as good a time as any.
So for the fifth year, if you guys have been following us, usually we do the draft over at 34 Rush at Batavia Downs. We do it with Rock Sports Network, and it's a lot of fun covering the draft, just studying about players, talking about the players, and it's all Bill centric. So what you guys are going to be given on draft night, days 1 and 2, on Thursday and Friday, is Paul and I will be there along with Ryan Lasel and Icy Vic of Rock Sports Network, Dan Borello of the Overtime Show associated with Rock Sports Network, Drew Gear of the Rock Powell Report, Clayton Garrett of Cold Front Report. I know you guys have heard a bunch of these names before. And Spencer German's coming back, who is associated with Rock Sports Network as well. And they're going to be coming in, and we're going to have a 6-man panel to talk about the NFL draft. But it's going to be very Bill-centric. So if you guys are not really interested in watching the draft itself, it's going to be on our YouTube channel. So tell everybody.
Yeah, we're going to be streaming it here.
Yeah, we're going to be streaming it here. So you tell everyone you want. Tell everyone that says, hey, listen, this is a very Bill-centric channel. So whatever the Miami Dolphins do at number 5, whatever the Jets do at number 11, whatever the Dolphins do again at 18 and 26, and what the Patriots end up doing at 23, are going to impact the Buffalo Bills, and we're going to talk about it. And we're gonna see if Bean ends up pulling the trigger to try to get back in the first round. But I want to emphasize this. It is a Bills-centric show. Like, we're going to be talking about the Bills the whole night, even if they don't have a draft pick. So you definitely want to tune into that. Hashtag Sports starting at 7:30 on Thursday. Set your clock, set your timer, write it down, do whatever you got to do, get some Post-it notes, all that stuff. So we're going to be there. Paul and I are going to be splitting nights, but I will be there running it through the YouTube page. So all your comments and everything that you want, if you want something read on the air, Ryan Lasel is once again hosting it. So if you want something read on the air, put it in the chat, and then we'll put it in there, and you'll get your name and your question on air. So I'm really excited to do that again for the 5th year. But the virtual draft, it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be a lot of fun. We're gonna be streaming it on our Sportscaster channel on Facebook, not our Facebook, but on the Rock Sports Network Facebook. So make sure you give them a follow on Facebook if you guys are there, and it's gonna be on our YouTube channel. So really excited to do that. And working with those guys for another year is going to be a lot of fun.
And it's going to be great to have it here streaming out on YouTube. So even though there's not Bill's first round pick, that doesn't mean there isn't going to end up being one.
Yeah.
But also, you can, if you're into what is impacting the Bills, that first round coverage is going to be where you want. And it's a lot of fun. It's a long night, followed by a long second day, but it's a riot. So it's the only place you're going to be able to get Bills driven draft coverage, 100% Bills coverage. We'll talk about the rest of the division along the way and kind of how that all shakes out. It's a riot. And the panel is really, really good this year. So definitely something that I encourage you guys to check out with us. It will be simulcasting on that draft. So as it happens, you guys will see it on YouTube. So if you can't get the NFL draft wherever you are, or you're just having an issue with it, you could just catch up. We'll announce every pick as it's happening. So, we're here for you.
Donnie Brook, Drew talks too much.
Yes, sir. Listen, we all have an MO. We do. That's fine.
We do all have an MO. And you know what? It's going to be, after like the 11th pick, it turns into a roast session anyway. So you guys don't want to miss it. It's actually going to be a really good time. Also, just something real quick before we transition, we got like 15 minutes left. I just wanted to inform everybody. We talked about this with Elliot and Evan the other day. Hashtag Nation, we're going to be releasing a couple things. There's 2 things that we're going to be releasing. Number 1, we signed up with Teespring, and we're going to be giving you guys some hashtag merch. I had been putting it off due to the quarantine with everything going on. I was like, you know what? I don't want to do this now, but DLC, yes, you can roast us. That's fine. We'll do that the last 2 minutes. But the thing about it is this. We're going to have some hashtag merch for you guys if you guys want it. I pulled a couple of members of Hashtag Nation. I said, listen, is this the right time to do it? Like, listen, we want to support you guys in any way, shape, or form. And in doing that, we've also are going to be opening up if you could subscribe to Hashtag Sports, which you already know, but you could join the channel, and we're going to have certain things. It kind of works like a Patreon, the YouTube membership to Hashtag Sports. Now, what does that mean? Well, you guys are always going to get your 3 episodes a week from us all the time. All right. But what we're going to try to do is there's going to be different levels that you could join hashtag and contribute to the channel if you want. Listen, we're not saying you have to do this at all. We're not saying, because Paul and I are very adamant about that. If you guys want to contribute to the channel, we would be more than happy to. And what we're doing to start it, I'm not going to get into the specifics right now, but you guys, I will get into specifics later. Here's the deal. Half of the memberships that we get, so half of that money, we're going to tack on to the Punt Foundation charity that we're donating. Like, everything got shut down. Paul and I were supposed to, have a big check and donate it to the $2,000 that we were going to donate, but we're going to tack that on. So half of the memberships that you guys sign up for, half of that will go to the Punt Foundation as well. So that's what we're going to end up doing with that. So expect in the next couple weeks, you guys are going to have the ability to join the channel and the different things that are for the contributions that you guys want to make to the hashtag sports, so we can build this bad boy up. I mean, you guys like our content, and we're thinking about adding more stuff for you guys. So that's what we want to try to do. So, Paul, do you have any thoughts on that?
I second Evan Anderson. He says he needs to help me restock on my Fanta.
It could work. It could work.
Yeah, don't do it. Don't do it.
It was great. Like, Evan and Elliot were in the Zoom meeting that we had the other day, and they were very supportive of that. It was great.
Yeah.
It was great to hear because, Paul and I behind the scenes, we're just like, we don't want to do that. We don't, even when people give us super chats sometimes, we're like, okay, we appreciate it, but that's not why we're doing this. That's 100% not why we're doing this. We love giving you guys Bills content and delivering some of the things that we know to you guys, and having a free platform to do that is amazing. And you guys have been so supportive, and I love you guys, man. This is the best. So, getting into the draft, Paul, you said you wanted to get into the draft. Now, I have been very high, and Daniel Gary's, I'm waiting in 3, 2, 1. He's about to comment. I want Jeremy Chin. He wants Duggar. I will argue back and forth with him all day. I just like Chin a little bit more than Duggar. And the reason why I like either one of those guys, I'll just put this as a blanket statement. Why I like either one of those guys is because it changed the complexion of your defense that has been together for 33 games now, that teams could start to find cracks in. And I think this defense is going to have to, not have to be elite, but they're going to continue to be elite. But if they don't add that one little piece that could throw that wrinkle in that defense that Frazier and McDermott can play with, I think they're not going to be at the level that they were last year. And if you want to beat the upper tier teams in the playoffs, you're going to need that one little element extra.
Yep.
Kansas City got Tyrann Mathieu. That guy's a freak. The Honey Badger can play anywhere on that defense.
Yep.
I equate Chin and Duggar to that style of player that takes your defense to the next level. Now, that is my story, and I'm sticking to it. But I'm interested in who Apex even said. Chin reminds me of Cam Chancellor. Love Cam Chancellor. Big fan of Cam Chancellor. But Paul, 54, you're on the clock. Jonathan Taylor's not there. No, I'm just kidding. Everyone's there for you. Who are you taking,
this
buddy?
Guy. So I've been hemming and hawing about this a bit, but the pick that I'm looking at, because I know safety is a popular one, right? You don't know, you've got Micah Hyde for another 2 years, but this is, if you're going to make the decision that you're going to start drafting to replace, this is a great opportunity to do so. Right. And again, with a second round player, you're not asking him to come in and start for you right away. You're giving him the opportunity to come in and again, be in the second 7 or 8 games of the season, to really step up and start to change the complexion of your defense. Right. And kind of show that evolution, once they're comfortable with him in the mix. With that being said, the defensive end position scares the hell out of me from a contractual standpoint on this team. So don't get me wrong. I do like the man that is Duggar, but there's some very big red flags to me that say second round is you let somebody else make that mistake in the second round. Chin, on the other hand, I mean, it's tough not to draft Jeremy Chin, but I really feel like defensive end is still like a need area for Buffalo. The problem is at 54, it's going to be pretty thinned out. So I don't know if it's really the best place to go. I mean, you're going to start getting down to like Jason, Strobridge from North Carolina. Like you're going to be taking the 8th or 9th player at that position, possibly. Maybe not that much, but you're going to start be taking players 6 or 7 at that position.
Yeah.
Once you get down to 54. It's to me that it's just, you don't have a lot of youth at that position. It scares me a bit. So I don't know, man. I don't know. It's tough.
Yeah, because of what Bean and McDermott were able to do in this front office during the off season, right when the season ended, they need another interior tackle. They need another defensive end. They lose a defensive end, and they lose Phillips and Lawson. Okay, what are we going to do? Okay, you sign Mario Addison, Jefferson, and Butler. Okay, that's filled. But Bean does have a propensity to double down, as we've talked about before. I mean, you want to talk about they signed TJ Yeldon 2 days before the draft last year. They draft Singletary. You look at this year, they signed a guard/tackle who has familiarity with OG Bobby Johnson. Right. Versatile player. What's to say they're not going to go tackle at that point? Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I know it's not a sexy pick, and everyone's going to crucify me in a second. But my point is this. If you're unsure about Milano, maybe you're also unsure about Dawkins. And you need to get ahead of positional need. So at 54, if all these other skill positions, safeties, corners, wide receivers, quarterbacks, maybe 4 or 5 running backs at that point are gone, that pushes all that old line talent down. And it's not a sexy pick, but it's a necessary pick. So I've seen Snarl, a girl kicker would be a sexy pick. Only if it's Kathy Ireland from Necessary Roughness, then it would be fine.
Kathy Ireland now is still fine with me. That's still fine.
She is 54.
60. Yeah, 54.
54
hey,
and
she
54.
Is 54. Hey, there you go. There we go. It's a sign, guys.
We'll be the laughing stock of college football. What do you think we are now? Oh my God, that's so good. That's so phenomenal. So I mean, a lot of people, they're coming. We need a running back. We need an edge rusher. Edge rushers I think are fine, because that's, I think, as much as we say, and you're scared about it, it's Frazier's defense. I think the defensive line, with Eric Washington coming back, it's overseen by McDermott. I think that's where he has the biggest impact, because I think Frazier has the impact on the back end, and I think McDermott has more of an impact on that front wall. And we've seen many Carolina teams, what they do is they don't have that big flashy guy. Right. Julius Peppers was a gift to him. You know what I mean? Mario Addison, if they do keep Trent Murphy, you got Jerry Hughes on the other side. You have depth at that defensive end position to hold. Whereas they're going to stop the run, they're going to penetrate on pass plays, and they're going to drop 7 in coverage, and see if you can get it in a window with all this speed that they have on the back end. So that to me is still the thing that it's like a 3-year-old to a blanket I'm clinging to. I'm like, listen, this is how he runs his defenses all the time. He doesn't have double-digit sack guys that just go out. They have even front, rotational front, and the combination of all that, if they get 50 sacks with the combination of players that they have rotating in on that front wall, we see Harrison Phillips is coming back too. That's a guy we haven't mentioned because he was hurt. Right. So all of that stuff combined, if they're able to get inside, even Sean Munley says it, inside pressure, puts it in all caps. I agree with you. If they're able to get that inside pressure, the inside push, and the defensive ends are able to do their jobs. Oh my God, I just sound like Belichick. Oh my God. I'm sorry, guys. But the point is this. If they're able to get 7, 8 sacks at the defensive end position, and you're able to get another 4 or 5. Oliver's going to be an absolute beast this year. I do agree with that. Mm-hmm. All of that stuff combined, you start to tally all that up. McDermott doesn't care who gets the sack, just as long as there is one. I don't think he cares. You're not going to have a guy, because what happens when you get to the playoffs is they single that guy out, and the other 3 guys aren't good enough to beat you. Well, McDermott says, if I have a balanced line that everybody could beat their man one-on-one, and you're going to have to make a pick on who you're going to double, I'll win that battle all the time. So that is, for me, that's why I don't think an edge guy is 100% where they would want to go. Now, you want to give me Chase Young? I'll just forget everything I just said.
Okay. What are you giving up to get him?
No, my point. Geez. No, I just said it to be a goof. My point is this: that's a guy that he day one is going to be a stud.
Yeah.
And the Redskins would be completely silly not to get him.
Mhm.
I just think they'd be silly. You talk about FedEx Field all the time. His career might be over before it starts.
That's right.
But the point being is, watch out for that Redskins. If they draft him, watch out for that Redskins defensive line. That defensive line is stupid. It's so good.
Well, and I think there's kind of an unsung hero. You mentioned Harrison Phillips. It's Eric Ciano, who's the strength and conditioning coach for the Bills.
Yeah.
He actually just won the strength and conditioning coach of the year award. That's a big deal, man. Like, that's one that players pay attention to. Like, that's a big player award, right? Like, you talk about Harrison Phillips. He spent all season with Eric Ciano, right? Rehabbing. So, like, I'm looking for a big season out of Phillips. I really am. I'm looking for a real big season out of Harrison Phillips. He had all season to work with Gianno while he was rehabbing, and that staff is award winning, and the players care about that award, man. That's a big deal. You talk about bringing in guys. That's why you go out and get Mario Addison. That's fine, but Mario Addison, being what is he? 30? How old is he? 30.
33.
33. Having an award-winning strength and conditioning staff is big to a vet player.
Huge. Huge.
It's huge, right?
Yes.
So that's why I'm looking, for the best out of Harrison Phillips this year. I really am.
Oh yeah. I after talking with Evan and Elliot the other day, I reposted the video that I did, the cut up of Elway and Allen. I posted that on Twitter, and we had because people like to compare guys all the time, and for the longest time, I think the comparison for Allen was Cam Newton, because you got all these Carolina guys. He's a mobile quarterback. All right, let's compare him to him. But I got the video, and it's up on Twitter right now, guys, if you want to see it. I'll try to put it on YouTube, but it was just their throwing motion and how Elway and Allen were very, very similar. And someone was making a joke about it to say, like, I can't believe Elway passed up on Allen as probably being the heir apparent to him in Denver, but then he wasn't.
Well, we talked about that during the draft. Like, that was a major talking point when we were covering the draft with Rock Sports.
Oh yeah. So guys, like we said, we're coming to the end of the stream, but make sure you subscribe, hit the like button, follow us. At 7:30, we're going to start streaming here Buffalo Bills centric draft content, days 1 and day 2. We're going to be covering the first 3 rounds with our friends over at Rock Sports Network, as well as Drew Gear and Clayton Garrett of the Rock Pile Report and Cold Front Report, respectively. This is the time, because I can't remember who asked for it, but Paul, it's time. We are going to have the roast.
Yeah, we could do 2-minute drill.
We could do the 2-minute drill for the roast. So I'll start the clock. Now, do you want to go first, or do you want me to go first?
I think we could just go between the two of us, right? You read comment that's about me. I'll read any comment that's about you, and comments about us, just whoever gets to it first.
So the 2-minute warning, #Nation. The floor is yours. You're ready to roast. So make sure you make this quick and painless, because Paul and I got to film our episodes for the week.
I know we got to do this week's episodes now.
So anyone, you want to fire away? Go ahead. So you can roast Paul and I. I'm probably gonna get an 8 Mile comment. I got a feeling.
Yeah. Les says Taylor won't be available at 54. Sorry, Paul. Evan and that one's you.
Ranch loves ranch on his wings, of course. Yeah. Paul.
Paul hating on Duggar makes us all like him more.
William, yes.
It's hard to argue with that, man. It is. It's hard to argue with that.
No, it's not, Evan. Common Core is not the best core. Hometown is Hidden Valley. That's where he hit all the running backs that he loves.
Oh, God. Yeah. Like, I'll have Niles Davis on my headstone when I die. I still think Paul looks like Kip from Napoleon Dynamite. Paul needs to buy a Beasley jersey.
Paul's better. Mario's better at predicting the future. Let's see those mock drafts. Hey, we did a draft in 2013, and Paul picked 17 out of the first 18 picks right.
That is true.
That is documented.
That is
we have that audio somewhere.
and
I'll
that
find
included that included that trade because the Bills traded out that year.
Who has the best BMI? John Calvin. That would be Paul.
Yeah. Who's winning that department? This guy right here.
I outweigh you by 110 pounds.
You outweigh me by my children.
Yeah.
My 3 kids.
Yeah.
You outweigh me by my 3 kids.
Paul Kuiper Jr.
Listen, I know the quarantine, it's been a while since I could get a haircut. You guys can't tell, but it's been a while.
Hey, according to BMI, I'm obese. I don't know if any of you guys have seen me before, but it's definitely not the case.
Mighty Buffoon, give Paul a sippy cup for his fans.
As Paul chugs his root beer. Yeah,
That's right.
He's got the metabolism of a cheetah. It's not my fault.
I do.
BMI really isn't fair and less misery.
Paul is only just hitting puberty.
Oh my God! Why are you getting roasted so much? This is because they haven't seen you in a while. They roast me normally. They roast me normally.
Fine.
That's fine.
That's fine. Bring it on.
You roast me in the comment section enough.
I do.
Yes.
I do. That's where I get all my revenge, in the comment section. I just drop so many little nuggets and just see if you find them. Then I get dirty, mean text messages from you at like 2 a.m. Like, really, dude? Really?
There'll be a couple here and there.
Yeah,
not
it
many.
happens.
So we have reached that. Paul is such a good sport. He makes. I know, man. Like, 'cause I think if I could be serious for 1 second, Paul and I do not. How many signed Star jerseys do I own? 7. No, I'm just kidding.
No, but you do own a Starla Tulele autographed pillow that you cuddle with every night.
Oh well, what autographed pillow?
Yeah, Starla Tulele autographed pillow.
That's Drew Bledsoe. Get it right. It's me, Mario. That's just for less.
We were in the same building as Drew Bledsoe, and you flaked out on meeting your idol. You're like, no, I gotta get out of here.
I can't do it because you always know that the real thing never compares to the fantasy.
Oh God, are you serious?
No, you said I did send away for some double back wine though.
Yeah,
The stuff is not cheap.
Listen, let's be real, Mari. You just didn't want to shake Drew Bledsoe's hand and realize it was 3 times the size of yours. That's the reality. You didn't want to feel like a little kid.
Hey, dude, if he's got more than 10 and 5 ace, then more power to him. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, once again, be on the lookout for the hashtag merch coming out. We're gonna have you could subscribe. Subscribe to the channel. That's number 1. That's the best thing you guys can do. But the other thing is you can join the channel. We're going to have extra video and stuff for you guys. Where Paul's going to do multiple salary cap breakdowns. I'm actually going to have a football 101 series that comes out in the member section of hashtag sports. And like I said, all the stuff that you guys donate, half of that is going to be going onto the total for the Punt Foundation, which we are going to do once the quarantine's over. You guys might see us on the news, but all of that stuff's going to be donated. And once again, we can't thank you guys enough for the undying support you guys have for this channel and everything that we do. And to the point earlier with everything with the roast and all this other stuff, Paul and I realized a long time ago is that when you're doing this stuff, you can't take yourself too seriously. I mean, do we take our reporting and some of the stuff that we research because we want to give you guys accurate information seriously? Absolutely. But in the end, we're members of Hashtag Nation. We love hanging out with you guys. We love your feedback. So to the usual suspects and everyone else that joined us in the chat today, thank you. If you haven't subbed yet, please hit that subscribe button. And we're going to be out of here. We're going to film our episodes this week. So
yep.
Take it easy, guys. We're out.
Later, guys.